don't focus on being the low bidder unless that's your lane. So unless you're the McDonald's of the world, don't focus on being the low bidder, because you actually might be excluding yourself from opportunities because of the association the person reviewing your proposal has with what that low number indicates.
This is Rebel Therapist, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are trained as therapists and who want to level up their businesses, make a bigger impact, feel fulfilled, and be very well paid. I'm your host, Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Jacquette Timmons, a financial behaviorist in New York City. We focused on two areas in our conversation: how she prices her offerings and how she builds and nurtures her audience. If you're working on expanding your business beyond the therapy room, those are two themes you know require a lot of thought and attention. You also know if you don't pay attention to them, your business can't thrive, even if what you actually provide is amazing. As we get into pricing, listen for how Jacquette uses a combination of trial and error and a careful, methodical process. She factors in everything from her expenses to what the outcomes are that she's providing, to what kind of value her clients place on that outcome, to what kind of time and energy the offer requires, and more. And, like I said, she allows for trial and error as well. You might think being methodical and using trial and error are mutually exclusive. Nope. Part of my method always includes room for experimentation. The first time I ran what is now the Rebel Therapist 2 Day, the cost was $1,400, and it happened over 8 sessions. And the first time I ran it, I had just 3 amazing participants who I'd worked with before. Now the program is in a different iteration. It's a 2-day workshop, 4.5 hours each day, and the fee, as of this recording, is $1,000. So it's a different format, a different price, and that price will likely go up over time. You'll also hear how Jacquette builds and nurtures her audience. 2 things that stand out about that I want to encourage you to listen for. So the first thing is that she has remained steadfast in her message and her mission, even when others weren't really ready to hear it. As a therapist moving your work beyond the therapy room, she's really talking right to you. As she talks about staying steadfast in her message over the years, think about what your beliefs and messages are that you want to share. Is there something kind of out there that you find not everybody's ready to hear? That could be a really good thing. Listen to Jacquette's experience with this. The other thing that stands out about how Jacquette builds and nurtures her audience is that she's not afraid to go deep. Rather than doing what other people are doing, she's gone for depth. Her content isn't quick or superficial. It takes a minute, and that has paid off for her. Think about how that might work for you in the business that you build beyond the therapy room. Rather than doing what other people are doing, how could you create content that is truly valuable and deep and engaging? I'm working on something right now along those lines. Some of you have already taken my new assessment, How Clear is Your Growth Path? It's a self-assessment asking you to score yourself and explore how your mindset and your actions are either creating a clear path to inevitable growth or holding you back. So this assessment is not meant to give you a permanent score, not at all. It's meant to get you thinking about ways to increase your ability to grow your business. And I would love your feedback about the assessment once you take it. Just head to rebeltherapist.me/score. All right, let's jump in with Jacquette. Welcome, Jacquette. I'm so excited that you're here.
I am delighted to be here, Annie. Thank you.
So you are a financial behaviorist, and I'm wondering, how would you describe your mission around money and why is it so important to you?
So my mission behind money, I think the way I'd love to describe that is by painting the following picture. And let's assume that I gave everybody who's listening $1. and I said, come back to me in 30 days and tell me, what did you do with that dollar? I would suspect that there would be some people that would look at me side eye and say, girl, you just gave me $1. There would be others that would say, oh, you know what? I saved some of it, or I saved all of it, or I invested some of it, or invested some of it, or spent some of it and spent it all. And the reasons for those different choices around money are reflective of those different people behind that dollar. And so in terms of my mission, it's really getting people to understand that when it comes to money, it's not just about a math problem that you're trying to solve, because 2 plus 2 is going to always equal 4. But if you really want to understand, how do you get the best from your money? How do you get, your money to do for it what you want it to do in your life in terms of fulfilling its role? You have to take some time and you have to think about what's your behavior with it, what are your choices, and what are the motivations behind that. And for each of us, that fingerprint for that is very, very different. And that's what I want people to understand and spend more time discovering and figuring out how they can master.
Okay. Interesting. And so do you feel like a lot of times people are trying to come at money as just a math problem, and that they're kind of not able to change things because that's not really what's going on?
I think we do it on an individual basis. I think we do it as an industry. I mean, we as an industry, we often promote, here's your performance, here's your balance. And it's not to say that knowing what your performance is and what your balance is and what's the market value of your accounts and stuff, it's not to say that that is unimportant. But what it does is it makes it seem like the numbers become the numbers simply because of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, without recognizing that there's a human aspect to all of that.
Okay, beautiful. So you have an amazing business, amazing company. And I was telling you right before we started recording, it was so hard for me to decide what I wanted to ask you about because there are so many things. So I'm probably going to beg you to come back in the future. But for today, I wanted to focus on how you have built and how you continue to build and nurture your audience, and how you price your offerings. And that's, I know, something that you also teach other people how to do. So let's start with what your offerings are. So let's just hear what your offerings are right now. And then I'd be really curious, like, which of those are the biggest parts of your business?
So I describe my business in terms of 3 different pillars. There's coaching. There's one-on-one coaching that I do with singles, couples, and entrepreneurs. There are the other pillar is for hire. It's where corporations, law firms, conferences, nonprofits will hire me to come in and talk. And regardless of what the title of the talk may be, it's always, me bringing my particular focus when it comes to tapping into the psychology and the emotions of money. And then I host live events. I have a dinner series where we get together and we talk about money, business, and life over food and wine. And each month has a different theme to be reflective of the fact that money impacts our lives and our businesses in a variety of ways. And then I also host this pricing retreat called In the Zone, How to Price Your Genius. And that's really all about spending the day getting people to understand what are all of the different factors that influence your price that a lot of people don't typically talk about, i.e. your relationship with money, your relationship with yourself, the relationship that you have with your business, and the relationship that you want to have with people that you serve. So those are the different ways in which I do business and make money. And it all depends from year to year which one is making more. So last year, because I was doing 2 tours, so I did a 7-city tour for a law firm, traveling around the country, doing workshops for their associates and partners. I did a similar for another organization. So last year, definitely speaking, brought in the bulk of my revenue. This year, it might be 50-50. It hasn't. So right now, based upon where we are in this point of the year, it's going to be probably about 50-50.
Meaning 50 is 50 for the speaking and 50 for the combined like coaching and events?
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, it'll probably be 50%, 50%. Although, so maybe 50, 10, maybe the split will be 50, 10, 40, with the 10 being events.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, I love talking to you about money because like you've got this mastery and this comfort with money, which would be obvious, but you can just feel it when we're talking about money.
Oh, awesome.
Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so often I think business owners kind of clam up and have a hard time easing into talking about the money. So that's really cool. So let's talk about pricing a little bit. Like how have you priced the dinners? How have you decided how to price those?
Oh, I mean, I think like everything is all trial and error, right? And so that was definitely trial and error. So one thing that I want to say about the dinners is that the dinners are not a moneymaker for me. And that's like my cash cow. What's that for? Yeah, the cash cow. In that it's not a moneymaker for me, but it is an awesome audience builder and it's an awesome relationship builder. And those two don't always have to necessarily equal, right? And so the goal was never to price it in such a way that it is making a profit. However, I did have to ease into it being the thing where it paid for myself and it paid for itself and paid for me, at least paid for my dinner. So the first couple of dinners, that was not the case. And really for the first year, I kind of subsidized it. And a part of it was, figuring out, I live in Brooklyn, New York. I live in New York City, but I'm in New York City, but I live in Brooklyn. And so initially the idea was to have some dinners in Brooklyn because I live here, and then others in Manhattan because it would be convenient for people, more convenient for some people. Well, then I started attracting people to the dinners that lived in New Jersey or Connecticut or Westchester. And to ask them to travel an additional 30, maybe 40 minutes was just like, that wasn't going to work. So a part of trying to figure out the pricing was the logistics, like where am I going to have this? Because each restaurant has a different requirement in terms of the banquet event order and all of that stuff. And so I was mindful of a couple of things: what it costs to just have a really great meal in New York in general, what it would cost in terms of looking at these as not only discussion moments, but also networking moments for myself and for the people amongst each other at the table, and what would, someone have an appetite for in terms of pricing. And then what made sense. And then what made sense. And so now the dinners are $150, and I feel really, really good about that because especially here in New York City, you could easily spend that.
Oh yeah.
On just a dinner.
Yeah.
And not one that, comes with a, good conversation that is intended to help make your life better in some way, your life and or your business better in some way.
Yeah. And so do a lot of people who go to your dinners end up working with you in some way?
I have more people. So this is really interesting. I have more people that have been repeat dinner guests. I have one person that's been to 9 dinners, and this is our 3rd season. And our season is, and we don't do a full year. We do January through June, September, and October. So that means that person's been to several dinners each season. And at this point, probably is close to, I can't do the calculation in my head right now, but close to almost paying a good chunk for coaching, right? So I love the fact that there are people that come back for multiple dinners. I think that speaks for itself. I love the fact that, yes, I have gotten some coaching clients from the dinners, but I would say that probably they may have been thinking about working with me already, but experiencing me in the context of the dinner kind of helped tip the point. But then the other thing that's beginning to unfold is some of the people that have been to a dinner are now saying, hey, can you do the same thing, but can we have it closed and only for people that I want to be here? So now we're going to start doing the dinners in a more private way, and that we'll still have it at the same restaurant and all of that. And they can only pick from a theme that I've done before, but that will also be a way of kind of expanding who I am in front of.
Awesome. So this is something that can build all of the aspects of your business, including the speaking and all of it. I see. Okay.
Yeah. And I've even used it as a, so for one of the law firms that I've done work with, I even used it as a way of, hey, we're doing this dinner. Why don't you have a couple of your folks come and attend? Not for free. They had to pay. But why don't you have some of your folks come to attend? And then it's like those people can report back. And then we ended up doing a dinner just for the firm. But it's a way of having the conversations that I think we ought to be having. That's one of the key things. B, meeting people that I've not met before, because at almost every single dinner, there is at least one, if not maybe two people that I'm meeting for the very first time. And that's because someone that they know recommended them to attend the dinner. So it's a great way of building those connections with the person. And then in some instances, it's a great way of doing that to also then build a connection with an organization that I might be interested in working with.
Beautiful. And just like one person at a time in this high quality way.
Yeah.
So how do you price your one-on-one work?
Well, I in fact do use my own framework that we talk about in the retreat, and that I also walk people through when I'm working with them as entrepreneurial clients. But it's also looking at, again, what's the value of, what's their goal, what's the client's goal, and what's the process that I am following to help them get there. So what's the value of all of that? And what do I feel good about? And not only what do I feel good about, just, physically and emotionally, but what's going to serve me? What's going to serve my business? What's going to serve me personally? Because one of the things that I'm really on a mission for as well is moving beyond this idea that you've got to give your business everything, including your future. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you literally give it everything, your time, your resources, your money. And so, you wake up one day, as what happens to me several years ago, you wake up one day and you're like, wait a second, my business is doing well. It's profitable. It's cash flow positive. Then why the heck am I broke?
Yes.
Why is that? And then just recognizing that one of the reasons why is because not paying yourself on a regular basis, you're paying yourself what's left over. You're not saving because when you started, you were putting everything into the business. So interrupting those patterns that you don't tend to switch off when things are going well, you just keep doing what you're doing. So all of that is to say, making sure that when I'm pricing, that I'm also pricing to make sure that not only does it set my business up to be sustainable, but that it also sets me up to be sustainable as well.
Okay. One thing I'm noticing and that I really love is that you're not talking about, and correct me if this is wrong, but you're not saying how much are you worth? Because
God, I hate that.
Yes.
I hate that. Yes. Oh my God. That and financial literacy, those are the two words that are like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. So no, I am not saying charge what you are worth, because as a person, I mean, really, it may sound Pollyannish, but there is no price tag that we could put on it. And then also, I think that there's a lot of psychic damage that does, because if someone says, no, I don't want to pay this price, and you've priced it based on what you're worth, you get enough of those, and that's going to chip away at your confidence and your self-esteem and your ability to show up and do your best work. So that's why I'm always talking about, what are the results that you are helping people to get? What is your process for helping them to do that? And based upon that, and based upon the research that you've done about your industry and your profession within that industry, that's how you come up with your price point, price range.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. And it does kind of, I mean, I guess one reason it rubs me the wrong way is it does feel kind of insulting to people who don't make very much money because, and maybe who don't have a potential to make a bunch of money as things are now. So it's like, they're not worth less. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the easiest, example that comes to mind for me are teachers. Like, given the stuff that they do and put up with, like, oh my God, like,
Right. Yeah. And I can't say to my
yeah,
sister who's a public school teacher, I can't say to her, charge what you're worth. You
right.
know?
Exactly. Yeah,
Ah,
exactly.
yeah. So as we're recording this now, the price of your Price Your Genius retreat, which is coming up on Friday, October 25th in New York City, the price is $1,500. And so I'm wondering, is that also kind of using that same process of looking at what is the outcome and all of that you just said?
It's doing all of that. It's also looking at expenses. Like, I think I say things are 360, right? Holistic. It's looking at expenses. It's looking at time. It's looking at prep. It's looking at, because, in order for me to show up and do my best the day of, there's a lot of that has to go in it. There are also different aspects of the experience that I want someone to have. And there's a price that goes into creating a really dynamic experience. And then there's, other expenses that are not necessarily related to the day, but it's related to getting people there for the day. And then there's, the idea of, their businesses. So, like, even with my coaching, the coaching is higher for businesses than it is for individuals. And in part because you're talking about a business, and when you're talking about a business, to me, there are always two factors. There's the person and the business, and you can't separate those two. So I'm really dealing with two people, if if quote unquote, if you will. And so I'm keeping that in mind, and then I'm also keeping that as a business. They also can write off some or all of it because it's a professional development experience. So I'm factoring all of that into my pricing, and it might go up, but we did the first one in February of this year, and so our anchors would be February because it's like the start of the year, but not January, and then it's October. And that's an opportunity for when you're planning for the new year, to just figure out how might you want to adjust your business model, your sales process, and therefore your pricing strategy. So that's the reason for those two, time frames, if you will. And so this is the first year for the retreats. Do it a couple of more times and the price might go up. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Future Annie here. As you can hear, as you're listening to Jacquette's story, building a creative and sustainable business on your own terms is awesome and also not something you can do alone. Join me and a small group of your innovative and warm-hearted peers to design your business beyond the therapy room. It's called the Rebel Therapist 2-Day. We'll tackle pricing, audience building, and all of the other pillars that are important to making your expansion actually happen. If it's your dream to use more parts of yourself, don't ignore that. Join us. Head over to rebeltherapist.me/2, spelled out TWO. That's rebeltherapist.me/TWO. Okay, let's get back to Jacquette. Earlier in your business, did you feel like you made particular mistakes with pricing?
Oh my God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And I had one friend who always told me that I undercharged. And I was always like, oh, but you're a partner at a law firm. Your perspective is different. And now I see how she was really, really right. And one of the things that I say to people is that if you are under earning, it's more than likely because you are undercharging. And so one of the quickest ways to get out of that wheel of under earning, that rabbit wheel of under earning, is to stop undercharging. So yeah, I think it's been an evolution of getting comfortable around the value that I bring, getting comfortable about putting a price point on that. Because I think for a lot of us, the work that we are doing, we do it with such an ease that it doesn't feel like work. And therefore
Yes.
it makes, right? And so it makes it hard to charge for it, or it makes us feel a little self-conscious about charging for it. And I think that does a lot of, that does a disservice to us when we don't recognize it. Just because it comes to us with ease, it does not mean that there isn't value, and that there isn't any monetary value that we need to be mindful of. So yes, pricing has definitely been one of my learning tools, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten much better at it. And I don't think the learning will end. Like even just a couple of years ago, I remember I have a friend who was the chief diversity officer at a major financial company. And I said, hey, can we get together? And I just want you to take a look at my proposals, because I really want to kind of get some feedback on whether or not I'm, making proposals in the right range. Because again, trial and error. I'm just, out here doing my thing. And so I sent it to her. She looked at it. We ended up getting together for drinks to talk about it. And it was amazing. She was like, no, you are right in the middle point, and that's exactly where you should be. She goes, because you know what? Whenever we get proposals that are low, we throw them out. We just completely discount them. And so I share that as often as I can so that people can recognize, don't focus on being the low bidder unless that's your lane. So unless you're the McDonald's of the world, don't focus on being the low bidder, because you actually might be excluding yourself from opportunities because of the association the person reviewing your proposal has with what that low number indicates.
It really tells us that, yeah, if we're putting energy into thinking like the lower we go, the more, the more demand for us there will be. It can just be absolutely the opposite at times.
Exactly. And I was on another show, and the example that I used there, I'll use here. I said, it's almost like you can get a hamburger at McDonald's, you can get a hamburger at the diner, and you can get a hamburger at a 5-star steakhouse, right? It all depends on your budget and your palate. And even the person that's at the 5-star might occasionally have a McDonald's. And even the person at McDonald's might occasionally save up to have that once a year experience at the 5-star. So this whole notion of, well, if I charge X, people won't show up. That may mean that you then have to do the work to attract the people for whom that price point will not give that kind of reaction, or not result in that kind of reaction. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it could be really frightening to some people to hear, but also really liberating.
Yeah. And I think for those for whom it's frightening, I can relate to it. But I think what it kind of speaks to is business is never just about the business of what you do. To me, it is one of the best personal development tools, right? And so if you're like, ooh, I don't know, I don't want to do it, that's precisely where you need to do some work.
Yes. That's exactly why I love this work is, helping people with their businesses. I get to be part of just this huge personal development. And I didn't know that was going to be the case when I first started this part of my work, but yeah, love it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about audience building. So I've noticed some things in watching you over the years. So you show up really consistently and your message is consistent and you do a lot of different things. You've got a podcast, you've done, I'm probably guessing like thousands of media appearances.
Yes.
And I know you use Instagram in an interesting way, and people should follow you there at Jacquette Timmons. You have a really good freebie, the financial wheel, that I'm imagining really gets people thinking. in a deeper way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what do you find? I'm betting there's not like one thing, but what do you find has the biggest impact on audience building and in particular bringing in the kind of people who are a really good fit for you?
I think for me, especially, the fact that I remained steadfast, even when my message wasn't popular.
Mm.
Today, people talk a lot about relationships with money. People talk a lot about emotions and money. I've been doing that since the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, when it was not popular. I remember when my book came out and I was on CNN and I was talking about how, before you can really create financial intimacy with another person, you've got to be in the process of doing that for yourself. It doesn't mean the relationship is perfect, but you've got to be curious and exploring and doing the work. And I've been on CNN a number of times, and some people got it, and we had an engaging conversation, and others didn't. And you could see that they don't want to talk about that, right? And yet, I did not let those external reactions force me to change my focus and what I thought was an important conversation to have. So I think being steadfast about your message, your story, or however you want to frame it, regardless of how people are responding to it, because you're going to have people that will embrace it. You're going to have people that are not. And so remain steadfast. And I think also in the process of doing that, especially given the online aspect of the work that we do, not being afraid of not wanting to go deep. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of times when you hear people talking about creating your free opt-in offer, it's, and I'm not degrading this for people that use it, but for me, it does not work. It's, create a checklist, create this, create that. And it's something that, yes, it's simple. Yes, it's quick. But for my work and the way that I want to work with people and the conversation that I want to instigate, those kinds of things don't work for me. And so I've been doing the financial wheel exercise forever as my free opt-in, even though others, would probably say that it's not smart because it takes 20 minutes. It's not just a download that you can just download to your phone or your desktop or laptop and just check off. It really prompts you to sit your butt down and listen and think and write and ponder and hopefully make some changes. And so I think my willingness to stick with it, regardless of what other outside factors are, that's a huge component of how I've been consistent with building my audience.
Yeah. And that tool, like you say right at the beginning, you're not just going to do this once. You can use this over and over and over again. This can really become part of your life.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And what about email marketing? How do you use email to nurture your audience?
So the last couple of years, because I was going a little bit bat crazy, I have now synced it so that the things I talk about in email are different aspects of whatever the theme is for the dinner for that month. And that was just a way of me having a bit of sanity because, when I first started doing it, I had a different, post for whatever I was talking about. And when I say post, the same thing that I publish on the blog is the same thing that goes into my email. But I had something for that was different than the conversation around the dinners. And at some point, it was just like, I can't do this, right? This is crazy. So whatever the theme of the dinner is, that breaks down into 3 or 4 different conversation points that become the blog post and that become the email marketing content. And so that's how I create some synergy in that regard in terms of energy. But that's also in a way how I feel like I can have the same kind of a conversation that I would have with someone at the dinner, via my social media, whether it's email marketing or promoting the blog. And it's just a matter of, if you come to the dinner, we will have an even deeper conversation around this. And maybe there are even aspects of it that we can personalize for you at the dinner that obviously I'm not able to do if it's in a blog post or in an email.
Oh, amazing. So you're just deepening a conversation and using your content and your actual services. They're all aligned. And what about your podcast? Does that also go with the same themes?
It's going to start going with the same thing. So the podcast is new. The podcast just launched in April. And, that was really an awesome, unexpected blessing, in that I was a guest on the Karen Hunter show, which is on Sirius XM, and it went really well. And afterward, I got a call and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast?" And I was like, "Sure." Oh my God. And so, they're the producers of it, and they do all the engineering, and it's my job to come up with, what I'm going to talk about. And for the most part, it's a solo cast, although I did just do my first interview and I've got another one coming up soon. And so initially it did start off with, its own set of, I guess, a content calendar, if you will, of different topics. And a part of that is also me introducing myself to the Sirius XM audience, which is now also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So introducing myself. So it did require a different on-ramping than perhaps other things. But now what I'm going to experiment with is, again, whatever I'm talking about on the blog post, what variation of that can I also have as a conversation on the podcast? So we'll see how that goes. But that's going to also be a way of just kind of managing energy and effort and not feeling like it's all disparate. Because, oh, by the way, I do have coaching clients and I do have speaking engagements that require me to travel. So I've got to figure out how to way to be more efficient in this process somewhere. And so that's what I'm thinking that might be helpful. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. That it still sounds like that's a lot of work, but I know I noticed from my own podcast that for me, it's the podcast that creates all of my other content, so that I'm not just pulling, something new out every week, but I'm getting to just go like a little deeper, or even like divide it up into themes. Yeah. And so how often do you email your list?
So during the non-summer months, it's fairly consistent in terms of every week on a Sunday night. July, I kind of give myself a little bit of a break and, do every other week because it's summer.
Yeah.
So I slow down a little bit at the end of June and July. But I guess I would say then August through June, it's every Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. One question that I always love to ask is, if you could time travel to the start of your company, what would you tell the Jacquette of that time? And maybe one thing that is kind of a big picture mindset kind of thing, and one just like nitty gritty tactical thing that you would tell her.
Oh my God, just one thing. If I can squeeze in two.
Sure.
So one thing would certainly be don't use all your own money to get it started. So that would be one thing. And I think that the reason that is important is because as women, we have a tendency to do that, whether it's our own savings, whether it's our own credit. Like, we don't typically look at other sources of capital, whether it's the Small Business Administration for a business loan or whatever. We are like, let's bootstrap this. And we literally think that bootstrapping it is only our savings and credit cards. And so I would say, don't do that. Use other people's money for as long as you can, because it's just harder to then replace. You lose out not just on the money that you've invested of your own, but then you also lose out on how that money did not have the time to grow, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that would be one thing. The other thing that I would say is it's okay if it's easy. And what I mean by that is running a business is not easy at all. However, I think I got in my own way because I was just like, this is just so. I have to put it into context. When I first started my business, which was in 1995, it was really an extension of what I had been doing at Bankers Trust when I was in the private bank, managing money for high net worth individuals and nonprofits. So I'm like, I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And so I did. 4 years into it, hit a bump in the road where I didn't have as much under management as I thought I would. I wasn't making as much, and I certainly wasn't making as much as I was when I was at Bankers Trust. And yet every single time I thought to just, close down shop and go in-house somewhere, I get one more client or two more clients, and that would carry me over for the next quarter or the next 6 months. And I decided to work with this coach, and one of the best decisions ever. And he said to me, I don't understand, why are you trying to force this to happen? Here you are, trying to build up this investment management business, but you're not paying attention to the investment education stuff going on over here. And his point was, I had been doing workshops since 1996, and it started with a national nonprofit. And I kept getting referral after referral after referral. I even spent, a chunk of time in St. Thomas doing a 3-day workshop for AT&T and their Caribbean-based employees. So I got pretty darn good gigs. I'm traveling. I'm having an awesome time. And come on, St. Thomas, you work in the morning, you have the afternoon off. It's fantastic. But for me, I was looking at it, that's my side hustle thing, and that's supplementing the investment management, because it came with me with ease. And that's where this point is coming from. And when he asked the question, I was surprised. My ego was a bit bruised. But then I went back and I looked at the numbers, and I discovered that actually 80% of my revenue was coming from education. So where I thought the education was supplementing the investment management, it was actually the reverse. And part of it was because I was just like, I can do this, not literally, but I can do this in my sleep, kind of a thing. And therefore I was discounting how well I was getting paid for it and the ease with which that was coming to me. And I felt like if I wasn't, working really hard and banging on the doors and, all of that, like that was what made me a good business owner. And that's so untrue. And so in my effort to, not only disrupt this whole notion that you've got to give your business everything, including your future, I also want to disrupt this notion that you're only a good business owner if you are struggling. You will have struggling times, yes, but you do not need to chronically be struggling and have that be a badge of honor that you are good at being a business owner. So I would tell myself to let it flow.
Yes. I love that.
Ease is okay. Ease is okay. And don't use all your own money.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Yeah. I mean, if you think about when you hire professionals, if it feels like if I were to go to the dentist and it seemed like he is struggling, like he is really struggling as he's working on my teeth, that doesn't make it more valuable.
Right. Exactly.
Often what comes most easily to us is what we're awesome at. So yeah.
Right.
That's great.
Right. And that's part of the reason why it makes pricing it so difficult, because we can't see it. So yeah.
So I definitely want to encourage people to check out, it'll be in the show notes, but to go and check out your website where they're going to find your podcast and that financial wheel and all of your services, including that retreat that's coming up in October. And anything else that you're super excited about that you want to leave us with?
Oh my goodness. I'm super excited about the fact that I think in general, we're having a different conversation when it comes to business. And I'm liking that different conversation. And I think that we are respecting the fact that small business does really drive the economy. And I want more of us to make sure that as we are being engaged with our communities, that we're making sure that that's the case. Like the people that we put into office are really supportive of small businesses, because policies that serve Fortune 500s, we want those to be good policies, but we also want those policies to be good for small businesses as well. And so I'm glad that we're, as a culture, we're having more conversations around that. So I'm excited about that.
Excellent. Me too. All right. Thank you so much, Jacquette. I really appreciate your time.
My God. Thank you, Annie. I really have enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
You can learn more about Jacquette at jacquettetimmons.com or by going to today's show notes. Before I go, I have an awesome bonus for you. I want to invite you to join me for a free online workshop. This is for you if you're leveling up your business and growing your audience as a part of that leveling up. This workshop is about how to get on a podcast and be an awesome guest. Being a guest on podcasts is an amazing way to grow your audience, share your message, and let people know about your services. It's the best and simplest way I know to get in front of hundreds or thousands of attentive people. I've got a ton of insights about how to do this well after having interviewed over 100 guests. I've seen a lot of pitches. Some of them have been great. Some of them really not so great. Come to the free workshop and I'll walk you through the whole process of finding the shows that you're going to pitch, creating the pitch, and all the way through to making the most of the episode when it airs. This is happening on Thursday, September 5th, 2019 at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. So to sign up for this, just head over to rebeltherapist.me/guest and sign up. Again, that's rebeltherapist.me/guest, and I would love to see you there. I'll talk to you next time.